Good afternoon and welcome to the March 17th, 2026 meeting of the Policy Subcommittee of the Brookline School Committee. Thanks to Robin Benoit for joining us and Alexandra Vecchio. Robin to help us with instructional materials and curriculum development, and Alexandra to help us with environmentally preferable product procurement. Let me begin by moving approval of our minutes from January 15th, 2026 and February 24th, 2026. Do I have a second for those?
Second.
Thanks, Mariah. Jesse, how do you vote?
I'll have to abstain. I didn't get to read them. Sorry.
Okay. Mariah?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
I apologize.
Oh,
Jesse, usually I'm the one who abstains because I didn't read, so it's good that I was able to pick up the slack today.
Thank you.
There was an extremely good description of our discussion from last time on instructional materials.
I'm staying unmuted a bit.
Reading.
I'll stay unmuted a bit just because of all the background noise, so my apologies, okay?
Okay. All right, so our first policy up today is the Town of Brookline Environmentally Preferable Product Procurement Policy. So Alexandra, thanks for joining us, and do you mind sort of giving us some background on this, why the school committee is being asked to take a look at it right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So good afternoon, evening, everyone. Alexandra Vecchio. I am the Director of Sustainability and Natural Resources for the Town of Brookline. Our program manager for our zero waste program, Miranda Hotham, unfortunately had a family emergency unexpectedly. She was going to be joining us here this evening, and I'm sure would have better answers to questions as they come in. So bear with me as I do the best that I can. I have some slides that I'd like to walk through if that's okay. But big picture, what I'll say is that we are required by Mass DEP in order to remain eligible for funding that supports our waste operations in town, specifically composting and recycling, to update our environmentally preferable purchasing policy. And because that is a policy that would affect both procurement via the town and as well as schools, we are seeking the approval from both the select board and the school committee in order to comply with Mass DEP requirements.
So you're looking for a formal vote from the full school committee as part of this process?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So
can I ask a couple questions, Alexandra?
Oh, sure. Do you want me to go through the presentation first, or would it
not required at this point?
I think you could go through it, but I'm not, well, from my perspective, I'm not sure you need to go through it. So it's whatever.
That was going to be my same comment.
Yeah.
I read through this top to bottom. It sounds amazing. It aligns with all the stuff we've been talking about. It's like perfect. Yep, really nice.
Well, Jesse's in favor. Right. Yeah. I just have some practical questions, which you a little bit alluded to right now, that basically like PSB procurement goes through town procurement anyway. So right. While some things don't apply to us because of our hybrid setup, this one does apply to us. And my question is, on Thursday, school committee is going to take, or is possibly will take a vote on a revised finance policy. And there's two sections in the finance policy which touch on this. And I wanted to ask you specifically how we should reference the applicable town policies. Because in other spots of our policy where there is relevant town bylaw so far, or MGL or whatever other things that relate, we reference them. And so I just thought, like, if it makes sense to just run our wording by you, and then how we should reference at the bottom of the policy. That way our policy doesn't need to be revised in like a month when this gets finalized through the process. And also because, as you just mentioned, this policy is the update of the existing policy anyway, right? So there's already a policy in effect now.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, so I think I'm going to brainstorm out loud here, which is always a little bit dangerous, but I think given what you're saying, and since this is a policy and not a bylaw, I think it could, I don't know the language of the financial policy that you're talking about precisely, but it could just be, in compliance with all town procurement policies, and this
Well,
falls
let me pull it up, if
under
that's
that
okay.
umbrella.
Let me pull it up really quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, because there's two
Alternatively,
Wild.
you could refer to it as the environmentally preferable purchasing policy, which if it were to ever change again, it would be whatever is the most current voted on version of that. So that would continue to be its title, if you will. So it could also be referred to that way.
So here's the section. This is the first section that this is referred to. So let me say one thing, which is the PSB current section D, which is our finance policy, does have a very long, detailed, which I believe is probably our equivalent version of the environmentally friendly products policy that you have now. And so because though most of this is through procurement, we don't repeat everything. So I really just had to promote social, environmental, and economical, such as the purchase of environmentally friendly products. What I was thinking was down here, I'm just gonna, I would add a reference to whatever this policy is called. I'm not pulling it up right now, to the relevant town policy, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then let me show you the other bit that is related to this, which is D12. Let me put a comment here so I don't forget to get this from Alexandra. Okay. And then the next bit is disposal of property. And this talks about not destroying property. Basically, property should never be destroyed. It should be offered to partners, which is also, I believe, in the policy that you referenced. And so I was thinking we should also have a reference here. Or do we, how would you, does it just make sense to add a same reference here to that?
Yeah, I don't know if this is as applicable, because most of this policy is talking about when you're going to get something a little bit less about the disposal, more if you're going to get something new to try to reuse what already exists. But I think to cover the bases, we can do that same reference here, as outlined in the environmental EPP policy.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay,
the Alexandra, the draft you gave us does mention like surplus redistribution,
Yes.
donation. So
Yeah.
there is the giveaway aspect of it too.
Exactly. That was what made me think of this section.
Yeah. Good point.
Okay. Okay, so that was just what I wanted to show, because again, if you don't mind just emailing me the right references from the town policy, then I will incorporate those so that we can already vote it on Thursday with the right wording.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
For the references, are you looking for the specific sections in the text, or just for the title?
No, the name of the policies that apply, which I think are in you reference them. This policy has a name, and then in this policy, you reference two other policies by incorporation, I think, or another policy.
Yeah.
So just whatever, making sure that if the wording has changed from the current title to the new title, just give me all that so I don't mess it up.
Yeah,
Please.
absolutely. Thank you. No, that's great. Thank you.
Because I think this saves us a step later on. We don't have to then go back and incorporate anything. It just is it's already incorporated by reference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sense.
I guess it's not incorporation by reference, but it's just a reference within the policy, right?
Fair.
Yeah.
Well, I think the procurement one really is incorporated. Well, it's not fully incorporated by reference, but because we use procurement.
It'll be valid not through the fiscal policy, but because the school committee will have voted on specifically the environmental procurement one.
Well, I don't know that we are voting on this whole policy. It's my opinion that we don't have to vote on this policy. We use town procurement. Town procurement follows this policy, and we are just saying it's a reference for us. That's
right.
all.
I mean, at the very least, though, Alexandra is doing us the courtesy of asking the school committee to vote on it, right? So.
But are we voting on it in support of the town policy, or are we voting to add it as a policy of ours?
I would think the former. This is not going into our policy manual.
Okay.
But we're expressing our approval of the town
Then
policy.
I move to make that motion of supporting the town's policy on environmentally preferred products, or whatever the title is.
Okay, I'll second that, but I also see that Jesse's hand is up.
Jesse, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. And in section 1, if you could put it back up there.
Yes, give me 1 second. Sorry, I just have that
Yeah, I
slide
don't
deck
see it.
open.
Not a problem. Take your time. In section 1, where it says any deviation from the standards must be approved by CPO, blah, blah, blah. Is there a process by which all items that are deviations are in the database or somewhere, so we have tracking on what items that we are procuring are not EPP? Where does that go?
So
Like, how do we?
yeah, so it's I mean the policy is requesting that anything anything that is procured is going through our purchasing division for some level of review, and then there are guidelines for what products are preferential to use. But I will say there is also the kind of disclaimer caveat that if that is a increased financial burden or isn't going to work for the operation of the town and or the school, whatever the intended use of it is, then there is the opportunity to say, okay, we're not going to choose this option. We're actually going with this. So it's through the
I understand
procurement.
that, but I understand that, but that was not my question. My question is that in the form that's used to procure, would there be, you've added another one, would there be a checkbox that says this is EPP or not? And when it's not, some drop-down menu or something says, here's the reason why. So if someone was to go out of our 8,950 things we buy in the town, and it turns out that, I don't know, 40 of them can't be obtained as EPP, so we know what they are. That's all. I'm just asking for tracking because this just leaves it like open. Any deviation must be approved, and someone wants to know, well, what were they? Then someone's going to have to go looking for them. So I'm wondering if the procurement process includes the ability for somebody in the system to put, to check that box, it's EPP or it's not, and why.
No, it does not currently.
So we wouldn't be able to track it really.
No, not.
Okay. I still love the policy. I love it where it is right now. I'm just saying that to me, that's a big gap in terms of transparency and ability to understand what we're doing in terms of the big scope of all the stuff the town's buying. But I still second or triple what Andy and Mariah said.
So
So we're
Mariah,
good to go.
was your motion to report this to the school committee with a recommendation that that they vote to approve?
So we vote to support it.
That we
That's what
vote
you
to
need,
support?
Alexandra, right? I mean, I don't know what approve means when it's
Yeah,
not our
let's
policy,
support.
so I
Yeah.
would just say, right, like a motion of
I
support.
second that.
Okay. So anyway, what we're doing now is recommending to the full school committee that they that what was it? Not approve, support this.
Yes.
Support,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I would imagine that because it's not going into our policy manual, it doesn't require two readings. I guess the chair would have to decide about this, but I think we could probably just take one vote at school committee the first time it comes up.
Yep. That's
Okay,
great.
so let's take a vote. Jesse, how do you vote on Mariah's motion?
Yes.
I vote yes, and Mariah?
I vote yes.
Okay, I should have waited to vote. Sorry. Okay, well,
That's
thank you very
okay.
much, Alexandra. That was probably easier than
Thank
you
you.
expected. So we'll of course let you know when this comes up at school committee. It won't be this Thursday because we're not within the window, I think, but probably the next time we meet, although it's up to the chair.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
Do
Thank you
you
so much
have
for
a
your time.
timeline, Alexandra, when you need an approval by?
Yeah, so we have to be able to have a final policy approved for DEP by the end of May. So we are looking to get both a school committee support and select board support before then.
Okay.
Just
Okay,
a
so that's
question.
plenty
I don't
of
think that
time.
will be a problem.
Andy, it's only 5 o'clock on Tuesday. It's 6 o'clock on Thursday, so we are within the 48 hours to add it in if you want.
That's true. I'm not sure it matters so much that we do it this week
Okay.
versus our next meeting if you have until the end of May.
No problem.
Yeah, I have a
No
little more
problem.
time. I just went a little more efficiently than I expected. So thank you for that. And I thought I would be coming back to the policy subcommittee possibly for a second reading. So I just wanted
It
to
appears
build in
not.
extra time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
So
thank
thank you
you.
so much. Appreciate it.
Take care.
And
Take care.
Alexandra, you'll send me the info.
Yes, I
Perfect.
will, Mariah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the other policy on our agenda today is instructional materials, and the scope has expanded a little bit from previous discussions. I think because Robin pointed out that really, the context here, instructional materials viewed in isolation doesn't make sense. So it's connected with curriculum development and adoption. And so, we'd done quite a bit of work on this already. There were drafts that were based, in one case, on our existing policy that was reworked by Jesse, and a version that was largely based on MASC model policy. So what I've tried to do in the draft that we're looking at today is to take a look at that whole section of our existing policy manual, which is section I2. I think it's currently 11 pages long, and it consists mostly of procedures that were last reviewed in one case in 1978,
Yeah, a long time ago.
in a couple other cases in 1990, and they contain things that are obviously like obsolete, things like having to deposit things in the public library and such. So um, my goal here was to really boil things down to the policy core, and in particular to try to clarify as much as we can what are the roles of the of staff, and what's the role of school committee in all of this, right? Curriculum development, adoption, and selection of instructional materials. Um, so the sources for this were sort of the drafts that we've been working on that Jesse had given us that were based on our existing policy. And then there was the MASC model policy for instructional materials that also had some revisions by Robin. And then there are two MASC model policies on curriculum development and adoption that I also tried to fold in. So now, the 11 pages, I basically threw out all the procedures for now, and it's boiled down to 1.5 pages. The first section is on curriculum development and adoption, and the second section is on selection of instructional materials. So I could walk through it and basically highlight the places where the wording here is not what was in the MASC version, and I sort of have a rationale for every deviation if people want to do that. Or if not, we can forego that.
Given its brevity
Mhm.
and beauty, I just sort of took a quick look. Can we take 10 seconds or just I'll scan it down?
Sure.
It's the first time I'm seeing it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can also walk you through it.
Why don't you do that, Andy, just for my purpose?
Okay. So Betsy, is it convenient for you to share the document so we can be looking at it?
I might be able to do that if Betsy is not able to do that.
Okay.
So if you want me to,
Yeah, Andy was probably, but yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
Thank you, Robin.
yeah, just to kind of help.
Oh, perfect. That's even better. Bigger screen. Good.
Hopefully you guys able to see it?
Perfect. No, it was good at the beginning.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
that's
sorry.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, so as I said, my goals here were to clarify the roles of school committee and superintendent and staff, and also to separate policy from procedure, and to indicate what are the areas where the superintendent does need to develop a procedure. So the first section here is largely based on the MASC model policies for curriculum development and adoption. I cut out one or two sentences that I thought were like a little bit redundant in the MASC version. The one sentence I added, except for the last paragraph here, is in the third paragraph. The second sentence is from our Brookline policy, which is any major adoptions or revisions must be described as part of the budget process. So that's not
Yeah,
in
that's good.
PNC, but it seems like a very good thing to have.
Does
Yep.
it? I have questions about that. Because I just wonder, like, when it's not that I still don't know what the definition of major means. And it goes back to like some of these, just what do some of these words mean? And so like if we mean, for example, a completely new curriculum, like, or a purchase, any adoption or revision that requires a purchase, but a budget neutral decision, it seems hard for me to understand how that would, like, how we have to mandate that as part of the budget process.
So, Robin, do you
Well,
think
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a clear understanding of what would constitute a major adoption or revision for
Well,
this
I think
purpose?
I think that to your point, Mariah, I think that what you're saying if we're budget neutral, but I think anytime we're being asked to, like, for instance, right, we might be purchasing across grade levels. I mean, like we kind of know that one, that's a major thing, like we purchase fish tank. But really within the budget process, if there was going to be a replacement of a textbook, let's say in a course, like say AP physics, they wanted to get a new textbook, that's a sizable purchase within the budget process. So it would, it's in there, and we would be discussing as we go through the budget process, well, why do they need new physics textbooks? That might be that they're outdated. They don't align with current, guidelines for AP physics or something like that. So it could be that they were last updated in 1978 and, our students need something more updated. Anyway, so like that we would be doing that as part of the budget process. I think that that's how I would think about it. Like when we're kind of getting rid of something and purchasing something new. Or
Why
if
does
there
it
was,
need to be in the budget process as opposed to the line immediately before that that says the committee will be informed of all new courses and substantive revisions in curriculum and receive reports? Like, why would you hold your fire on that one until the budget process? And why would you repeat it again if it's not necessarily like, I don't know if a physics textbook, if you had to replace them anyway, you might have, like, they might be perfect and you still had to replace the books anyway. So you would need to say, we're replacing physics textbooks anyway. So I just don't understand why we would have it be part of the budget process as opposed to part of the natural business of the committee during the year to hear about curriculum change. Sorry to interrupt you, Robin. I just
oh,
don't,
that's
I
okay.
don't get that sentence as opposed to the normal sort of course of business of the committee. And I think it adds stuff to the budget process, which is very complicated already without adding in asking people to consider a whole bunch of non-budgetary, potentially non-budgetary elements.
Oh, because you're worried that this potentially forces us to pull budget neutral things into the budget process just
That's my,
because.
Okay.
exactly,
Now I
it
understand what
could.
you're saying.
Okay.
yes. And I just think that like yes, exactly. I don't want us to start turning the budget book into things. It already is a lot of things, and let's not turn it into things it isn't, right?
Right.
So I would much rather, like, if we were going to have
Hmm.
you give a report anyways, Robin,
Mhm.
in your OTL section about work you're doing. And like it could go there, but that's not necessarily the budget process. That's the work of OTL. So I just want to be really careful, like, and you report on OTL's work like you came to us, what was it, a month
Right.
ago, and
Right.
talked about OTL work. I just worry about it getting tangled up into what it is not, which is not necessarily a financial process.
What do you think, Jesse, about either keeping or not keeping that sentence?
I would remove it per Mariah.
Yeah, I'm persuaded as well. So
Yes.
let's just take it out again and revert to the MASC version, which doesn't have it.
Thank you. Can I also ask another question in the prior paragraph?
Hmm.
I think it's a little confusing when it says the superintendent will have authority to approve the new programs after they've been studied, and then the committee will consider and officially adopt. I would think it makes sense to say the superintendent will have like authority to recommend new programs and courses of study to the school committee, and then the school committee considers and officially adopts. Because then it's sort of clear, like there's
Yeah.
sort of a tiering there, right? A
Why,
staging.
why is the superintendent listed at all? Why isn't it just professional staff?
Because I think that ultimately they have to go to Bella as the instructional leader, right? And
Okay,
then,
Right.
yeah,
okay, okay.
Yeah, she operationalizes across the district. So,
Okay, that's
or
fine. Thank you.
superintendent.
Yeah, I'm on board with that as well.
thank you.
Good.
Okay, good. So then the last paragraph in this section is new. It replaces about 10 pages of procedure in the existing policy manual. It just says the superintendent will develop procedures governing curriculum development and adoption, and including guidelines for community participation. So that's a way of saying that the school committee does expect community participation, and we want our staff to to have a way of incorporating that.
Yeah, I like that.
I did too. I thought that was nice.
Okay. All right. Any other comments on the first section before we move on then?
Nope.
Okay, so then we narrow things. So then we get down to selection of instructional materials. That's whatever is not covered by adopting new curricula. So in that first paragraph there, the first sentence is right from MASC. The task of selecting instructional materials for programs is delegated to the district's professional staff. Now, MASC has this second sentence that and I think this whole subcommittee found confusing last time, and which I got rid of. It says, because instructional programs and materials are of great importance, only those that meet the following criteria will be approved by the committee. And so I found that confusing because in general, the committee is not in the business of approving or disapproving particular instructional materials, right? Except, implicitly in the
Right.
case of adopting a whole curriculum. So that didn't seem appropriate at all. So I just replaced it with what you see here, which is the superintendent should ensure that the materials selected meet the following criteria, right? So these are the
Yeah, I
school
think that moves it into the right. It
these are
moves
the
it into
school
the right
committee's
place.
broad guidelines, but we're not going to be looking at every individual object to see whether it conforms.
Yeah, that's good. That's
Okay.
good.
So then in the first bullet
Can I
point,
ask a question, Andy? This is
yeah,
like, are we asking that every material meets this section, this selection of bullets, or that like the body of materials for a specific curriculum represents these things? Does it
it may
matter?
not even be the case for that, right? Like I can imagine a math curriculum that doesn't engage in multifaceted treatments of international, national, and local issues, right?
So how do we represent the fact that this doesn't necessarily apply to all, that this doesn't necessarily apply to all instructional materials?
Well, which ones would it apply to?
Like math wouldn't represent, like the example Andy just gave, like a math worksheet would not have a multifaceted treatment of international, national, and local issues.
I think what I think about this
Well,
list, I think about holistically, these are things that should be considered anytime we're looking at materials, and the ones that apply would be the ones that you'd be looking at. So whether that's
right. Not everyone has to meet everything.
I
But
mean,
if
we could add
And
the
anything,
phrase whenever applicable, like after the
or
word.
as
I
applicable.
guess,
But
yeah, I
again,
guess like,
so the math case is clear, but then like, for example, if a teacher, or I'll say if there's the curriculum and 1 week is about, 1 week is about one facet of a issue and the next week is about another facet of the issue, like, does each material have to be about multifaceted? I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. I'm playing devil's advocate to make sure that we are not,
Yeah, I mean that's an
um,
excellent point that was made by somebody who wrote to us about this issue, which is that no, you're right, you're presenting a whole issue, right? It's not like every document you put in front of students has to display multiple points of view.
of course
exactly.
not. That's of course.
Well,
But
but I don't know
if
that
in
it's
the,
of course not. I think that's important that we're kicking the tires to make sure we understand what we mean, right? So,
well, what I also think we mean, Robin, is that the instructional programs and materials as an umbrella
Yeah.
for any subject sort of have to meet these 6 things. I mean, these are the adults making the decisions for the kids. So obviously, not every topic, acculturation may not meet, one of these things, but math may meet other things. Political theory will meet a different, will meet a different one. You know, the history of tool making will be different. But in what we're saying is that the programs and the materials within those programs need to align with these like six big goals as they can. And if they fall short, then they need to be called out or we need to discuss it and the school committee would be involved. Only after the professional staff would have chosen something that for some reason raises a flag, it doesn't foster appreciation of diversity, or it somehow is anti some kind of gender, that kind of thing. It would come up, we'd look at it, and of course you would have already known this, but this is just like a guardrail to ensure that whatever the topic is across 900 subjects we're teaching our kids, that none of them fail to meet these common sense categories. So even in the 6th one, if there are situations in which there's like, I don't know, from the math side again, like some counting exercise, and somehow it's not flexible enough to meet the needs of our special learners, then that's a problem because everything we do needs to be inclusive enough to meet the diversity of our student body. And it goes on and on like that. But I think the intention I had in writing the first version of this was that it's really paying attention as professional adult educators, not the school committee side, but the professional adult educators to making sure that these are like our guidelines, and that we attempt to the level possible to adhere to them. That's sort of what it is. So
is there a change of wording like in the preamble that would capture what we're trying to do? I think it's obvious what we all have in mind, but I'm having trouble finding the form of words for this.
Go back up to the top again for a second, please. All the way.
All the way to the very, very top, or the top of this section?
No, all the way to the top.
I almost think, I'm just going to throw something out there for your consideration, that if you
I
got
like
rid of bullets 1, 2, and 4, it might solve this problem.
If we do what to them?
Get rid of them, 1, 2, and 4. Then it just takes you down to helping develop abilities in critical reading and thinking, an effective education, and differentiation based on differentiation. I'm summarizing the last one.
I think I'd have a problem with that.
I'm just throwing it out there. I thought, yes, I imagine somebody might have a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go, and I'm not going to say that every single district in Massachusetts or in the United States has a different way of doing it, but in my review of instructional materials across Massachusetts, 1 through 6 are essentially in every single district. So I would not support taking out 2 or 4. And I think it was 1, 4, and 1, 2, and 4 you were going to take out.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 and 4, 2 and 4, I think they're obvious that we shouldn't have to say them, but it's important. And I think number 1, given the world we live in, and given the, how to put it, given the extreme difficulty and pressure that professional educators are under to present perspectives and material in as neutral a way, neutral but with passion, and neutral and with compassion as possible, I think it's extremely important that we leave 1 in as well.
So then in that case, I'll make a
I want
slight
to keep
change
those, but they are of a different nature than the others, right? The others are kind of like, I don't know how to term it, but yeah,
one is more, one
those
is
are like
more
basic and universally applicable, right? And then these others are applicable, more for certain subject areas than for others, right?
I mean, you're right. Look, Andy, 2, 3, and 6 have more to do with cognition.
Yeah.
And 1 and 5 has to do with discrimination. And 1 and 4 have more to do with like sort of society.
Yeah.
And if we wanted to, it's our policy. We could divide these 6 under those headings. Here's our, following criteria in the social sphere, 1 and whatever it is, 1 and 4. In the cognitive and learning sphere, whatever it is, 3 and 6 and whatever. And in inclusivity would be 5, and that would say here are 3 big ideas, and here are the details of how we think about how to bucket them so they don't seem, and I think we're all saying the same thing. These 6 really aren't like in the same pot. They're like in the big, but they're different enough that they can be a little disjunctional. Like you worry, like what is 3 have to do with 6, stuff like that.
Would
I
So
like
I
that
would be,
idea. I could see bucketing them, and then you basically could say meet the following criteria to the extent applicable to
Yeah.
the extent applicable, and it makes clear that like we are thinking of like the societal bit as different
yeah,
than, like they might not apply to a math sheet. On the other hand, they might, but like we clearly are distinguishing between them. It helps other people, I think, understand the list as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you an example just on the math side, okay? I mean, it's a crazy example. Let's just say that in a 5th or 6th grade, kids are bringing home workbooks on math, and the kids are showing it to their parents, and they see that the math principles or ideas are all coming from a group of mathematicians from one cultural background. Let's just say, and let's just say the parent notices it, and they say, gee, why is it that my kid is learning math? They're learning math, but they're not getting, like when I see who the math teacher is that taught or developed this algorithm, or the math professor who developed this approach to a function, or the math team that in the 1910s did something. It's always in a certain, let's say, racial group. Okay. So that would be a situation of not being neutral. Not neutral meaning everything goes, but it would be obvious that there was like a picking going on. And if it was a course on the contribution of Asian Americans to mathematics in America, you get it, right? But if it's a general math curriculum, and we tended to see, not that we do, but we tended to see a tendency for a lot of it being in one group to another to make up for past mistakes or to make up for past absences of appreciation. I get all that, and it's good that we're trying, but we still need to meet the overall principle of let's be broader socially. Let's make sure our kids are learning from all good perspectives, and making sure kids who are challenged can come along as well. That's sort of where I see this, even in math.
Could I make a recommendation? Because maybe, right? Because this list in this order comes straight from the MASC policy with
Yeah, I'm
some
looking
wording
at it. Yeah, I'm
changes.
looking at it.
And
Yeah.
it's consistent across districts.
The
And
state.
so one thing that I would, like if we felt the need to change it, instead of putting headings, maybe reordering them. So like kinds of statements are grouped together, like
Yeah.
you could do that. So maybe it reads more logically for folks if they're feeling that they're disjointed. I mean, it is something that could be done.
Right. I mean, I would think that possibly a combination of reordering them, and then for some of them, we might add the words whenever applicable or whenever appropriate.
Mhm.
Also,
Well,
just removing the words they must from the beginning of everyone makes this a lot more flexible, right? Like,
yes, I agree. I agree.
because
I
must
agree.
makes it like mandatory, and we don't necessarily
I
have
agree.
like,
Yeah.
That's such a good idea. Thank you.
So, supposing that we're overall willing to send this to the school committee, would the subcommittee be okay with me just kind of going through and trying to incorporate what we've
Yeah.
been saying, like finding the right order, finding the right form of words to kind of put these things into buckets and make sure the scope isn't inappropriate.
Mhm.
Yes.
Because I think I gather that all three of us are thinking along the same
Mhm.
lines. It's just hard to workshop this live.
Totally. The
Jesse,
one
are you
thing,
okay with that?
oh, sorry, Jesse.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. I don't think I said anything, but go ahead.
Okay.
Andy was asking if you're okay with him tweaking it offline to do what we're
I
talking
didn't hear the
about.
question. I thought it was just a proposal.
Okay.
Um,
Just for completeness, I did
yeah,
want to point out the three places in
yeah,
this list where
yeah.
it's not the MASC.
Mhm.
Yeah, first of all, I will say that I love Robin's approach of possibly regrouping in more logical pieces. The fact that I went through 30 or 40 of the MASC policies when I wrote the first one, it's all cut and paste. So I mean they're copying a template. So we can do what we want. In fact, in Wellesley, their first one is different, Andy and Mariah.
Mhm.
It says, when materials advocate for a specific ideology or side of a controversial issue, they must be part of an overall curriculum that presents various ideologies or sides of controversial issues so that students have an opportunity to develop under guidance skills in critical analysis and in making informed judgments in their daily lives. And then it goes on with the other 5 the same way. So we have flexibility. I think grouping them is wonderful, or paragraphing them a little differently so that the social, political, ideological, if you want to say, ones are sort of combined somehow, and that the ones that are more to do with critical thinking, factual knowledge, appreciation of values, meeting the needs of all students, and of course, not discriminating, are put together a little differently, Andy. I would be 100% behind that.
Okay, so I'll try to embody what we've been saying in a new version for the school committee, assuming this goes there. Just for completeness, let me point out the three places where this does not follow MASC.
Mhm.
So in the first bullet, MASC has they must present balanced treatments, and we had some discussion of that word, and the word multifaceted there, I think, was Jesse's solution to this, and I
Yeah,
like the word all the
that's
best of all
better.
the ones that came up. So that's what we have
Thank
here.
you.
In the third bullet, I also added Jesse's phrase about promoting reasoning, analysis, and problem solving. That's actually not in MASC.
That's
Um,
right.
and then in the last bullet, they must provide sufficient flexibility and not just allow sufficient flexibility. So it's a bit stronger, I think, than what MASC
Yes,
has.
Mhm.
Okay,
Can
so
I
those
it
make,
is.
are the
can I
changes.
make one request? Well, also, I thought that you added to the, you added all the categories of,
Discrimination.
discrimination
Yeah,
into the
so
fifth bullet as well.
That was Robin's list when she went through it.
Yeah. And then I would like if we could say, rather than special needs, differentiated needs. Or to meet the
Yeah,
sufficient
of diverse
flexibility and
student.
differentiation to meet the needs of all students and groups of students. Special needs to me, like this reads like we're not using the word disability, and because you know how sometimes people say like people with special needs and they mean disabilities, and I don't think that's what you mean exclusively. I think we mean students who need not only more challenge but who need more support. And so I would like it to say something like differentiated needs and not almost read like a euphemism for students with disabilities.
Could we say
Okay.
varied needs,
Diverse needs.
the diverse needs of individual students and groups
Are
of
we
students?
are we not liking differentiation?
Well, the only reason I would maybe think about like if kids have diverse needs, then we need to differentiate. Like it's like the action that comes from it. So if I want to focus it on the needs of kids, like our kids have diverse needs and we need to make sure our curriculum addresses that. So that's how I would think about it. They don't have
Okay, that's fine
differentiated
too.
needs.
Yeah, I just
So,
don't want it, I don't want this to be interpreted as special needs means only students with disabilities, and I think
right.
it's
Right.
positive
No,
to
I
have that.
understand your point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
like that, Mariah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Or if people are okay on the bullet points, modulo whatever changes I might be able to come up with.
Can I make a comment, which is I really liked the bullet as Wellesley rewrote it, the way Jesse read it. So to the extent you
Yeah.
choose to adopt that wholly or in part, I think I would be supportive because I think it adds really great wraparound context of what that really is meaning, which is
Right.
like, to make sure that if, especially when it's these like controversial topics or, ideological ones, which one-sided, how does this get presented in a broader context? So I liked that and not wordsmithing it now, but if you put that also into your hopper as you are working on this, I would be supportive.
Yeah. Jesse, offline, would you mind emailing me the Wellesley language that you just read out?
Uh, I will do so offline. Yeah, sure. One other comment, Robin,
Mhm.
at the end of the penultimate bullet, because discrimination definitions sometimes change, and we want to make sure we touch all protected categories. Would it be relevant for us, instead of saying at the end gender identity, disability, or sexual orientation, to say gender identity, disability, sexual orientation, or any other basis under the law?
Or we could say on the basis of protected class. And I mean, I just pulled the list from what our description, and you have a good point, right? Like we have to update that list every time we're updating
Well,
our,
right. So this would cover us that. And I remember in the civil rights one, my version sitting out there somewhere still has something like hair. What's the
Mhm.
word? Hair. not fashion, hair, not hair color, what's it called? Hair design,
Style.
Right.
there's
So
something about hair in there that's also an option. So rather than go down the little tunnel of getting every one, if we said, like what you said, or any protected class or any basis under the law, it would just future-proof this for a little while if something changes.
well, yeah,
Just
it
an example.
encompasses as
Like
if
you don't
there's any changes.
like you're not like why aren't we including pregnancy, for example? There are kids that are pregnant in high school.
That's
So
true.
why are we, that's another one. So just a suggestion, if we're leaving pregnancy out, then why and hair color slash expression, I think it's hair expression. It's fine if you want to have 14 of these rather than 10 or something, but if we use something like or any other basis, or like you said, Robin, I love that comment, something about a protected class, that would include pregnancy, hair expression, etc.
Yeah,
Right.
Jesse, I think you originally had any other category protected by state or federal law.
There you go. I love
And
it. Thank you.
yeah, and so it could be that, and just as I was reading through after, like I have a little note to myself here on the side that if we wanted to simplify, like I said, we could not have the list, although we might think it's important to have the list or have at least some of the list, and say effective basic education that does not discriminate on the basis of protected class. But it could be any of those words. I think the idea of some flexibility, if there are changes in laws that allow us, that we don't have to always go back to this, we want to make sure that it's up to date.
So could we say just does
Yeah.
not discriminate on the basis of protected class, comma, including, and then keep the list we have?
Could be, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's good because it collects both. Yes.
I don't
I
know
like
whether
that.
on the basis of protected class is even grammatical, but
Right, yeah, it may not be. So I was
I
just
would-
trying to
I
think about
mean-
how to simplify.
mhm.
I think the list is fine. I would add pregnancy and hair expression and leave it. And that's
Is
1, 2,
pregnancy
3,
considered
4,
a
5, 6.
disability?
I believe
It's
it
a-
is
it's a
protected
discrimination
class,
thing.
pregnancy
It is a
status.
protected class.
Yes.
Yeah, Andy, it's a discriminatory, the protected federal categories. There are what, 12 here right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11. They're actually somewhere between 10 and 14 federal protected classes. So that's why if we add pregnancy and add what Robin said and any other protected class, it'll be gorgeous. Then we're covered, we're future-proof, and it means we were thoughtful about what we put in.
Okay, so here's another one where I'll spend some time trying to find the right form of words. So we want to include the notion of like any protected class, and we also want to keep the list we have.
I don't personally
we don't
want to
need
keep
both.
the list that we have. I think it can
Oh.
get confusing if you say one of those things gets removed. I'm just saying, and then all of a sudden it's in ours and it's no longer a protected class. Like that puts us into a more confusing state of affairs. I would rather just reference state and federal protected classes and
Yep.
characteristics or whatever the most comprehensive wording is, because I think there's classes and there's protected characteristics. So.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know if they're identical. I don't know if they are a Venn diagram that is one circle on top of the other. So you getting clarity on that, I am totally on board with, and us not having to edit this in a year when a new class is added or
Mhm.
something changes, I think is a great thing.
Okay. Sounds good.
That's right. Okay, that's
All right.
it.
Can I just say, I don't like the word basic in that,
Where does it say
bullet.
that?
Can we
Oh,
just say an effective education? I guess, why does it have to
sure.
say basic education?
Yeah. That's good. That's a good catch. Let me
Like
see
if we're gonna pick a word, I'd rather it say comprehensive rather than basic. I mean, just feels like the bar is like we're putting the bar at the very bottom, and I don't think that that's where we want our instructional materials to go, right? So
Yeah. That's total. I would just take it out.
Yeah.
yeah, I'd rather just
Yeah,
say
it's good.
effective education.
Okay. So
Good.
is that it for the bullets?
Yes. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Andy, for doing this.
Uh,
I appreciate how you got us to yes.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. We're not done yet, though. There's this last paragraph here.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at that. So the superintendent will develop procedures governing selection of instructional materials, as well as procedures for handling inquiries and requests from the community regarding instructional materials. So parallel to the similar paragraph above, right, this is indicating that the school committee does expect that there will be inquiries and requests from the community and that the staff should have a way of dealing with those, right? But that it is the staff's job to deal with them and not, in the first instance, the school committee's job. So,
Yeah, okay.
I think it's good. I actually have one comment on something that's not in here, which is the case of when an educator uses a material that is not part of the curriculum, a self-sourced material, or I don't know what the label, what do you call these things? Like, but they use they'll use a material that is not not from the approved materials and it doesn't meet these standards. How does, like, what is the directive? Are staff allowed to use their own materials in this context? Because what is the instructional materials policy? How does the instructional materials policy apply in those kinds of cases? Because the superintendent, if you scroll back up a little bit to the above this applies to all the materials that essentially the district's professional staff, but do the teachers also, are they the staff who are being delegated to? And I'll give an example of a couple of years ago, a parent brought forward a worksheet regarding Thanksgiving that was being used by a teacher and was incredibly um, out of date with the norms of how we talk about Thanksgiving. And so how does this, as it's written, intersect with those kinds of individual decisions by educators?
So I would think about it this way in terms of, if the superintendent is responsible for a procedure, that anytime there's an inquiry or request for a review, so a parent, is concerned about a worksheet, they may go to their child's teacher or their child's principal. That's really like, it's not really a school committee place, but it's a conversation between in this case, probably the principal first, or potentially curriculum coordinator and the educator. And if it's something that's inappropriate or they shouldn't be using, that's either a discussion or as part of the evaluation process. So it's not really in school committee. I feel like it's covered, like in terms
No, I
of,
didn't mean in terms of it being a school committee thing. I guess my question is, like, does this policy as written also apply to educators, or does it only apply to OTL curriculum coordinators? It applies to everybody, right?
yeah, it
Professional
applies.
staff, they're choosing this, and those materials are also, and those educators are also beholden to this policy,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yeah.
so Robin, do you have any other suggestions about the draft here?
No, I actually, many of the things that I, kind of had written down as just little notes that could be wordsmith, because you and I talked quite a bit about these ahead and looked at different, as we, looked at different policies, but I think I like where we landed. I think that the feedback is good. And I like the idea of it just having some longevity and having the procedures, which need to be able to be updated and be flexible based on time. And if we look at this policy previously, it looks like parts of it, like you said at the beginning, hadn't been updated from, I think the last time any part of it was 1990. So like we're talking quite a long time. So we want to have some longevity. And I like, to the point of last time, Mariah, I know you had a lot of questions about roles, right? And how do we outline that? And I think when we put the two parts of it together and ordered them in this way, it helps clarify that. So,
Okay, well then I'll make a motion if people seem happy with where we've landed, that we advance this to the school committee for first reading. Before that happens, I'll have tried to I'll have worked more on the bullet points and tried to incorporate what we discussed today.
Seconded.
Okay, any further discussion?
Just a note that I already sent you the Wellesley piece you needed.
Okay, great, thank you. Mariah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jesse?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Okay. Thank you all for the work you that you've done on this policy. I think I'm always very happy to take 11 pages and reduce them to 1.5. It does leave work for the staff to do in terms of actually developing a set of updated procedures
They
covering
can
all these
just cut and
areas.
paste all the stuff you cut into a new document and that'll be
Except that
procedure.
stuff is just
Yeah, it's
like
really
I'm
so,
kidding, I'm
so obsolete.
kidding.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So we're now onto new business. I did want to maybe do a quick review of the status of some of these policies that we've been trying to advance, because when I looked at the tracker that Betsy is maintaining for us, I mean, basically civil rights is going straight to school committee for a discussion at some point when there's room on the docket. We've now advanced this, and then pretty much the other policies are waiting on staff input. Um, and that's
Which one,
that's sort
like
of where
what,
we
for
are.
example?
Okay, let me open up
Or you
that
can put it on the
tracker.
screen, maybe that would be helpful.
Okay.
Andy, we had the building one.
Yeah.
I'm next on that, so that one wasn't.
Yeah. So
I
let me
have it
try to
open. Do you want me to
share.
share screen?
Building or
No, I have the
Well, can we
tracker.
just say,
I have the
oh, the
tracker.
tracker, yeah, that
oh
would be
yeah, if you
great.
have the tracker and can share it, that's great because
I
I'm
do.
tech illiterate and can't
I
do
was
it.
looking at it yesterday to get
Yeah.
myself caught up. It's small. Hold on one sec. Let me make it bigger.
And just remember the tracker is, various notes I'm just kind of throwing in there. It's not official, but
Sure. So section D, that's on Thursday. Timeout practices is next week, and delegation of administration of medications and CTE, that's all next week. Instructional materials we just talked about. Student civil rights is to be scheduled at full school committee for feedback. Building use and access, that's where we're waiting for it to be scheduled. And then code of
I thought we're waiting. It looks like we're waiting for Bella to discuss with school leaders and with the operations director.
I don't think I realized that was next. I thought I was waiting for, I thought I was going to take Jesse's draft. Like, this is different than what I understood before. I thought we were going to review it again. I didn't realize that my next step was just to share it with Bella. So I can
Oh,
do that.
so
I've
I
been
guess it's
waiting
a
for it
little
to be
ambiguous. Are you
rescheduled
supposed to
here.
revise? Do we discuss again and then you share it, or?
That's what I understood was our process. So that's why I
Oh,
haven't worked on it. So, and I swear this wasn't written here like this. It could have been,
okay.
and I missed it, but I definitely didn't understand that. So if that's the case, I will do that.
Because
But I thought we had a
I
lot of
thought that our
edits.
discussion last time ran into the sands because it seemed like we needed input from certainly from Joe
I thought
before
we were
another
looking
draft
at
was
it again.
attempted. Yeah.
And so, like, what are we doing here? Is this what we're doing? Should I just revise his draft further and share it with Bella, or do you want to have it come back to the committee? Um, we didn't vote on having me edit Jesse's draft and share it with Bella. Like this, I don't think this was a formal decision, and I did not understand this at all.
Okay, so could you say again what you understand to be next steps?
I understood that I was taking Jesse's draft and editing it further and bringing it back to the committee.
Right, that's what I remember.
Okay,
Yeah.
without necessarily having shared it with staff.
Well, it will go to them eventually, but like first we were gonna take another look at it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right, we can do that. So shall we plan to have a discussion of that next time if you're up for it?
sure, that's
Okay.
perfect. Okay, so Betsy, will you write that in here? Because I don't know what the two columns, I'm not totally clear what the two columns mean. Or which column should I write that into? I
yes,
guess
I will. I'll
this
take care of that.
one. Okay. I'll just write for April meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. For review at April meeting. Okay, then the next one was the code of conduct, and that one I think just went to staff to discuss class size and sectioning. Megan responded that they needed more feedback, and I said I hoped we would get that before April or something like that. I
Yeah.
said soon. And then Pledge of Allegiance.
I thought that one was ready.
It's ready. It was supposed to go to Bella to share with leaders, but I don't think she did that part. I think that's what Andy was alluding to. And then
Okay,
SROs did not get, I don't know where that's at all. Andy, this is blank, so I don't know what's going on
I
with that.
think
Yeah.
that's a, That's later, like next year at this point, I think.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen this year.
Yep, and then inclusion in life of the school, I think, is paused as well. I don't think that there's going to be any motion on
Mm,
that for now. It's not clear, and this would have to be picked back up again because there was a lot
yeah,
of comments that were discussed in the executive session, and then the personal electronic device policy, and that's everything.
yeah. So the
That's not
piece
up, yeah, and
that
that
was
one, that last one is not updated correctly
Oh, it's not?
because no, unfortunately, at our 3-3 meeting in new business, our last school committee meeting,
Mm-hmm.
I noted that I had sent um, Bella, Anthony, Val, and possibly Hal a request following up on a personal one-on-one meeting I had had with Bella to get direction on how we can move to a bell-to-bell restriction in the high school. In other words, to move what Steve Ehrenberg and I helped to move forward for K-8 last year. And parenthetically, enforcement's a different issue. We all know that. But the policy is as is. And I spoke to the superintendent who was going to follow through. I did not get a response. As a result, in new business last meeting, as one of the 3 items I brought up at last school committee meeting was I anticipated a response from the superintendent by our next meeting. I did not know at the point she was going to be on vacation. That's okay. To get an answer as to where we are and how we're proceeding. It's a no-brainer that we need to do it. It's just a question of when. And so that policy, in my view, should not wither until next session. We should bring it up again. It went to school committee last year, Aprilish, when Stephen brought it forward. It passed. At the time, the high school, I'll say, how shall I say? Um, decided to defer a final decision at the time. I'll say it that way. I think a year later, and given what we know about the epidemic of cell phones with children and what we know about our very anxious generation of kids, it's beyond belief that we're not moving faster than our legislature and that Brookline, like other districts in Massachusetts, should already have banned cell phones bell to bell, except for situations in which kids on IEPs, 504s, and other situations require them. That is where I want to see this, and I would strongly urge us as a committee to get this in front of the full school committee this session so that we start September in a better place.
So, but just to be clear, that was you acting as an individual committee member, not the subcommittee actions. The last subcommittee action, which is I
That
think
is correct.
right, but I'm just going
That is
back to this
correct.
was you said the tracker doesn't reflect the latest, but those were your individual actions, not the subcommittee. I think our last ask was
Okay.
what's written there to have Bella go to staff and ask what they thought. And I think that is
And it
still,
hasn't happened, yeah. And it hasn't happened. That's why I brought it up last meeting, Mariah.
yeah,
So I think
interesting.
what we need for this and at least one other policy is some follow-up with Bella to see where we're at with these consultations that only she can do right now.
Yes.
Yeah, and I understand that the budget is white hot, and I understand we're putting together an override, and I understand that there are a lot of pressures. I mean, we all have pressures, believe me. But this is so glaringly obvious, honestly, I'll just say it, of adults not acting like adults. This has to happen. We just can't do this and say, well, it'll be okay. It is not okay. And so if we need to put a little more urgency under Bella, so be it. I mean, I'm happy, by the way, to bring it up in 2 nights, again, as new business, stressing the fact and emphasizing that this cannot just simply slip week after week, month after month. It's inconceivable that we're sitting here talking about it right now in 2026. So You know, it's my own opinion, yes. I'd love to see it be the opinion of our policy subcommittee, that our recommendation to the full committee on a first reading of the upgraded policy is bell to bell K to 12. And let's have that discussion out amongst our peers, Mariah, right? I mean, why not?
So Andy, does policy, I'm a newbie to policy, so I guess you two could tell me, does policy ever docket things that staff like would we docket this? Could we docket this for our next meeting, I guess is my question.
Um, yes, I think we could, especially if we give enough lead time to, because that's our way of saying that this is a priority for us, that we
Right.
need the staff input to be able to discuss this intelligently. And it'll be there on the docket.
Okay.
It seems to, yeah, I like that idea, Andy, because, honestly, I think we're just getting pushback. It's hard to make this decision, and but as adults, it's our responsibility. I don't want to get all military about it, and it's our duty, and all that stuff. It's our responsibility as mature adults to make the right decisions for our kids. And there's absolutely no question whatsoever, wherever you look, that the right thing to do is to get these devices out of the school day. Again, if you have a math hunt in the school and you're doing a maze and you give them something they have to do on their calculator or whatever, they take the phones out. Of course, it's a tool like their Chromebook. But other than that, bell to bell, their lives will be so much better and their parents will be so much happier that the district is doing the right thing.
So we'll notice it for the next meeting, Andy. Is that your plan?
Yeah, I think that can be the plan. Let me just collect what are the things that are currently in the superintendent's court, so that she'll have an easy reference for all the things that she's supposed to be consulting about for us. But yeah.
So do you think it'll end up in this week or not?
This
This
week.
week?
This
No, the
week's
next
school committee.
no, the next policy
Oh,
meeting.
next policy meeting. Okay,
Yeah.
next policy
Yeah,
meeting. It's like,
sorry.
what, in 2 weeks?
I have no influence over docketing for school committee meetings. So,
Sorry.
yeah.
Okay.
That would be good, Andy, if
Okay.
we could have a
Yeah.
super special policy subcommittee where, the enrollment and sectioning one comes up and this comes up and everything else that is pending staff feedback, and then we could hopefully really clear some stuff. And the Pledge of Allegiance, which is pending
Yeah.
staff feedback.
And
That would
again, I
be
want to manage expectations here. Clear, given that you and I, Mariah, are going off the committee quite soon, just means, we'll have tried to move it out of policy subcommittee, let's say, but then what the full committee does with it, it could
That's right.
die there still. So
Okay.
Look, we only have a couple weeks, right, before the end of the session. You guys are already sort of beginning your deep exhale.
I don't know about Mariah.
Okay. But really, if it was up to me, from a social emotional situation with our kids, I don't see why we shouldn't focus our next meeting, whenever we have it, just on cell phone policy. Other things are important. I get it. This is so hot. We should not let it go. And any digging into the heels by the high school, it won't stand. There is no good reason, not a security reason, not a risk reason, not a medical reason, obviously with exceptions for kids who have a special medical need and they need to have it. Of course, kids who need it for dysfunctional, of
But I
course.
don't think we need to do I appreciate what you're saying, Jesse, but I don't think we actually need to talk about those details now. Nor is it,
Okay, but I
we're
said,
in the
but
new
no,
business part of things, it's not noticed to.
My
But
point
if
is
there are
is
objections to
that
be raised or practical issues
just
to be raised, I
yeah,
would like you, Jesse, like to hear them from the people who understand them best. So I will do my best.
okay.
I will do my best to to get staff to contribute to our next discussion of this.
All right. Well, like Schwarzenegger said,
I don't think we can move forward on it just with absolutely no staff input at this point.
well, but here's the thing, we've given them 2 options already, 2 direct requests already. And what I've got is 0 response. So in my view, professional educators have a lot on their plate. Professional teachers in public schools have a lot on their plate. professional grant writers, research scientists, people at Northeastern have a lot on their plate, and I have a lot on my plate. They're paid to do a job, and my view is this is not asking them to turn the world over. This is not asking them to push everything aside. This is asking a very simple question for which the answer should be obvious. So if they got 2 chances already and they haven't answered, we as a policy subcommittee need to shake it a little bit to make something happen. I just don't
think
want to
in the-
see this thing go and
Jesse,
go and go.
I think in the past there has been some movement like that and it has ended up not working out. So I just think it's good to have
I
Andy,
get it.
yeah, more deliberate approach to it, and let's see where we
I
get.
got it. Just as long as we deliberate sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Are we all done? Was that the end of new
I
business?
think
and
so,
new
yeah.
Yes.
policy?
So,
Thank you guys. Appreciate
yeah,
it.
and thank you, Robin, for being with us. Thank you, Betsy, for
Thanks,
running this
Betsy, for
meeting
hanging out from
from
wherever
the
you are.
airport. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you
Okay.
both.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Oh, she's still in the airport. God bless her. Oh my. Oh my.